I already have a feeling I know how this is going to go, but we're going to listen to a reaction from Court TV. They're going to be talking about what happened in the last day that we were live for the Karen Read trial, which was day 19, and what that's going to look like moving forward. We may get into and talk about our favorite witness testimonies so far here on this channel from the good doctor, Dr. Wolf, and just get a breakdown of what happened on that final day. So let's see and get some insight from Court TV. Y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments in the chat, and like the video on your way in if you haven't yet.
The retrial of Karen Read, accused of killing her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, began on April 1st, 2025, following a 2024 mistrial due to a hung jury. Prosecutors allege that after a night of drinking, Read dropped O'Keefe off at fellow officer Brian Albert's home in Canton, Massachusetts, and intentionally struck him with her SUV, leaving him to die in the snow. They cite evidence such as broken taillight fragments and John O'Keefe's DNA on Karen Read's vehicle. The defense contends that O'Keefe was fatally injured inside the house and that Karen Read is being framed in a cover-up involving law enforcement. They point to alleged investigative misconduct by former lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor, who was later fired for inappropriate behavior.
Can we take a second? Can we get tomatoes in the chat and in the comments for Michael Proctor, please? This guy.
Lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor, who was later fired for inappropriate behavior during this investigation. And now, as the prosecution gets close to wrapping their case, more important expert testimony and some unexpected jury drama. Tonight, we have all the latest and all the big moments as the retrial of the century continues. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments.
Vinny, here we go.
Let's take a moment to think about the big picture now in this retrial of the century. And there is one central question to it all, and it's about Boston police officer John O'Keefe. How did he die?
It's a good question.
How did he die? This is not an easy question to answer. I'm going to explain why in just a moment. But if you speak to folks online, posting comments in chat rooms, etc., depending upon which side you're on, both sides believe it's an easy question. And if you dare say you believe something else,
that's true,
you get attacked. You're not smart. You don't get it. Both sides in this, whether you fall on the Karen Read side or the prosecution side, when you ask that question, how did he die? They say it's obvious. It's obvious. Well, obviously it's not obvious. We saw that in 2024. 12 people who had one job, which was to figure out what happened and deliver a verdict, could not deliver a verdict.
That's true.
That is the best evidence of all that this is not obvious and this is not an easy question to answer.
Okay, Vinny.
How did Officer John O'Keefe die? Well, Karen Read knows the truth about whether or not she backed up her SUV and struck him on purpose. She knows the answer to that question. There is no doubt. She knows. Now, she has denied it publicly. People on the other side are going to accuse her of lying. But we know that she knows the truth about whether she did or did not purposely back up that SUV and hit John O'Keefe. But she didn't testify in the first trial, and it's likely she won't testify here in the second trial. Now, the second trial, they are playing clips of interviews that she did, but an interview is much different than testifying and being cross-examined live in front of a jury.
Yeah.
It's way different. And this is one of the reasons that, again, this is not an easy question, because someone who knows whether or not she did what prosecutors accused her of likely will not testify in this case.
Who's that?
Now, former trooper Michael Proctor knows the truth about whether or not he framed Karen Read. He knows. He's denied it, but people on the other side will say he's lying about that.
I hope we get to hear from
Now,
him.
Trooper Michael Proctor knows the answer to that question, to the allegation that's coming from the defense. But guess what? Doesn't look like he's testifying either. So if the person who knows whether or not this was a frame job and the person who knows whether or not she struck him on purpose, and neither one of them are testifying in this case for this jury, does that make this question of how he died easier or more difficult for the jury? More difficult.
I agree.
Will they figure it out? Will they figure it out this time? Well, one way that the prosecution wants them to figure this all out is from digital evidence and expert testimony. Prosecutors are relying on that, and the defense is relying on that as well. And we've got battle of the experts going, different interpretations of evidence. You know, clips of Karen Reed that can be interpreted more than one way.
She shouldn't have talked.
Like I said at the top, it's not an easy question, despite the fact of what both sides will tell you is an obvious answer. If you're being honest, it's not obvious. And it was difficult in the first trial, and it may be more difficult in the second trial.
Dang.
Matt Johnson, Court TV crime and justice correspondent, was in the courtroom today and has more for us tonight from Dedham.
Hey, Vinny, a big day of testimony here in Dedham. Week 5 ends with a new witness on the stand, the neurosurgeon.
Did you have an opportunity to review photographs of a laceration to Mr. John O'Keefe's head?
Yes, I did.
Do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty whether this injury, the laceration and the basal fracture, was caused by Mr. O'Keefe falling backwards on the ground?
My opinion is that that's what caused his whole injury.
Dr. Ezek Wolf was a much-anticipated witness. He analyzed John O'Keefe's injuries and determined his head injury was from a fall backwards. On cross, he was asked about John O'Keefe's eye injury.
Raccoon eyes, the medical term for that, sir, is ecchymosis, right?
Correct.
Ecchymosis, raccoon eyes, does not cause a laceration to form on an eyelid, does it?
No.
Day 20 started with concern from the court, which prompted all 18 jurors to be questioned individually by the judge, and the reason is still unknown.
I do need to stress for you that it's very, very important that no one discuss this case. Don't let anyone talk to you about the case, no comments about the case. You've seen how hard the lawyers have worked to pull this case together for you, and everybody's given it so much time. So please, let's make sure that we follow that.
The day ended with testimony about microscopic pieces of plastic, consistent with the taillight found in debris with Officer O'Keefe's clothing.
With reference to the red plastic from item 7-18.18 from Mr. O'Keefe's clothing, in your comparison of that red plastic with the red plastic from the passenger side taillight of the defendant's vehicle, item 3-1, what did you conclude from that analysis?
So the red plastic that I sampled from item from the debris from the clothing from 7-18.18 was found to be consistent in color, microscopic appearance, and instrumental properties with the portions that I sampled from the red plastic from the taillight. So accordingly, the red plastic from item 7-18.18 could have originated from the red plastic that I sampled from the taillight. It could have come from, they could have a common origin, or it could have come from another source with the same characteristics.
Right. So in other words, another way to say that, Ms. Hanley, is it may have come from the taillight, may not have.
Outside the courthouse, Karen Reed had this to say. Take a listen. Wrapping up week 5, how do you feel?
I feel great. I'm anxious. I'm ready to put on our case, which will be more robust than it was last year. So I'm anxious for everyone to learn what we know.
And court is dark tomorrow through the long holiday weekend, but testimony will continue on Tuesday. Vinny?
All right, Matt Johnson in Dedham, Massachusetts. And again, talking about the jury gets a few extra days off. Well, there was some jury drama today, so let's talk about it. Let's bring in our think tank live in studio, criminal defense attorney Daryl Cohen, criminal defense attorney and law professor Meg Strickler, and family law attorney and law professor Randy Kessler. Great to see everyone tonight.
Good to be here.
Let's talk about this. Let's take a listen to the judge, because something happened before court. We got an extended shot of the fan in the ceiling because it's all happening at sidebar. Let's take a listen to Judge Canoni.
So an issue has come to my attention that is going to make it necessary that I talk to each one of you individually over at sidebar with counsel. So that process will take a little while. So I'm going to, don't speculate as to what I'm going to talk to you about. Please, when you go back to the deliberation room, talk about anything but this case, and I'll see each of you individually, and the process may take
Yeah, and y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments too. What do you think happened here? I think we had some idea when we saw some speculation from other places, but what do you think actually happened with the jury? Because I'm still trying to find out.
The cameras will be shut off, and I'm going to talk to the lawyers about whether we clear the court.
Okay, so the jury was told not to speculate about what this is all about, but we can. Okay,
Exactly.
How unusual is it in the middle of a trial to bring in the jurors one at a time to talk about whatever?
If Tom Jones was singing, he would say it's not unusual. I say it's extremely unique and extremely unusual. Obviously, something of major importance has taken place, and the judge wants to stop it yesterday.
Go ahead.
The question is, if something unusual happened, did you do anything about it, right? When it's on appeal, judge, you knew about this and you didn't do anything. Now she's got an answer. I did something. I talked to them and I figured it out and I was okay with it. It's a judgment call. Sounds like she did the right thing, whatever the issue was.
It turns out, like, if it's something that's going to be mistrial level, you know, we don't know. Was somebody influencing them? Were they paid? Did they post something? Did they text somebody? It'll come out in the future, but
How about the fact that it's all
right, so they don't know either. We're all just speculating at this point. Let me know what y'all think about this, and what do you think about the last day we saw in this case so far? Because Karen Reed even seemed to somewhat take shots at the good Dr. Wolf about his testimony and how, if anything, it doesn't make sense for a guy who studies living, functioning brains for a living to talk about what a dead brain would look like and the damage there. So if anything, she said she felt like it helped them. Also, we've got this issue with the jury. We're going to find out later what that means. So much going on here. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments and in the chat. Interesting stuff.